want to move on now because speaking of race and speaking of controversy, as you know, or many of you should know by now, that the Hey Reb statue was taken down this week on the UNLV campus. And I say to myself, why? Who's responsible for this? Well, the Native American Student Association has been very vocal on this, and I wanted to hear their side of the story, why they think this was the right thing to do, because there are a lot of people that disagree with this action. So joining us on the line right now from UNLV, from the Native American Student Association, both Ryan Boone and Giovanni Saucedo. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
We're good. How are you?
Doing good.
Doing well.
All right, so let's start with Ryan, if I may. Ryan, I'm confused, and I'm trying to understand why this statue was taken down. Give me your explanation. Why have you guys been so for this statue being taken down on the campus?
Well, we've been so for the statue coming down because of what it represents, especially to Native people. It's representative as an Indian killer or like a frontiersman, which is also a symbol of manifest destiny. And manifest destiny was the term for colonization, especially westward. And it's the 19th century doctrine of belief that the expansion was justified and inevitable. And historically, frontiersmen were commissioned to murder and scalp Native Americans, where the redskin term comes from. And so the reason we've been fighting this for so long is because we don't believe that's an image that should be represented on our campus, and it certainly doesn't represent a UNLV student base.
All right, so Giovanni, now let me go to you.
Okay.
And you can tell me if you agree or disagree with me here. So when I look at the Hey Reb, and listen, I understand that history and the atrocities, and it's awful, and he's absolutely right. But with that being said, we have a cartoon character with a mustache. I mean, I'm not trying to diminish how you guys feel. That's why we wanted you to come on to state your case. But what I see is a mascot with a mustache, to me, that has no affiliation with what the horrible atrocities that happened to Native Americans back in the day. What do you say to that?
Well, the truth of the matter is, like, when there's, like, mascots, you have to actually know the history of things. And like Ryan was saying, he is a frontiersman, and that does reflect manifest destiny and, the history that he just said. But, for some people, it's like you said, it could just be a cartoon with a mustache. But for other people, it's what it is. And as an association, we believe that just because some people don't take offense to it or don't actually know about it doesn't mean that it should be brushed off.
Do you think that UNLV should change the name from the Rebels to something else?
Honestly, I think that we should because, when you look at the history of UNLV, the Rebels was associated with, the Confederacy back in the day, too. And we just changed the mascot, but our slogan and stuff is the same from the past. So I think we do have a lot of things to change at UNLV.
All right, so let's continue this conversation. Let's go with this. Now, let me be clear on this one. With some of these monuments that have been taken down, for example, people that own slaves, the names of people that actually owned black people, I am totally okay with taking those statues down. But again, you guys could tell me where I'm wrong here. I understand that certain people are offended by certain things and others are not. I get that. If there was a specific name or this rebel, this Hey Reb, was an actual, look-alike to somebody that killed Native Americans, I would be totally 100% on your side. But again, I'm going back to what I said before. It's not though. I mean, it's basically what we're looking at here is a mascot with a mustache with a funny hat at times. And I'm trying to understand how we can help me out here, correlate that to somebody that killed Native Americans. That's what I'm having trouble with understanding.
Well, the fact of the matter is, like I mentioned earlier, some people may not really think anything of it. Like, if it was something offensive to somebody else, like, for example, let's say if it was a Nazi, exaggeration, but let's just put that example. Some people might be, it's just a guy with a funny mustache. Well, there are atrocities committed by different people, and this is just a different example. Just because some people don't see the negative aspect of it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
All right, so if I saw somebody, and I'm only speaking from someone of Jewish descent, I guess you could say. If I saw I don't know, I guess you could say a mascot, and it had like a Hitler mustache. I'm trying to understand this. But In no way, shape, or form did this person look like Adolf Hitler. It was just a mustache.
Would you be able to identify that?
I
Brian?
wouldn't. Well, I wouldn't want that statue to be taken down. Now, if they called a mascot Hitler or they had a lookalike of Adolf Hitler, I would absolutely be on your side. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? I mean, I understand that you guys.
Or if UNLV changed their name to the UNLV Nazis.
Well, of course, but that would never happen. But
would it be the running Nazis?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that would never happen. But I understand what you guys are saying, both Ryan and Giovanni, that, different people are going to be offended by different things. I totally get that. But is that the kind of society that we want to live in today, gentlemen? And you guys both sound like very smart guys. But is that the society that we want to live in today, where everything is taken down? And what happens if we're offended by R-rated movies, for example? Does that mean we should ban all R-rated movies? There are some people in this country that are very against movies that, I guess you could say that have violence in it. So does that mean we shouldn't have violence in movies anymore? There are people
Well, you're opening up a door for evangelical Christians to just go nuts.
Well, what about porn? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
as you gentlemen probably know, there are a lot of people that are against porn. I think there are more people that are for it than against it, but we still have porn in society. So where can you make that differential there between that?
If I may, really quick. So I think the connections that you're trying to make are kind of leading in the direction of diminishing exactly why this is happening. And we're very happy that the interim UNLV president is moving in this direction. But when it comes to the mascot being removed, it's not the same as violence in movies, etc. It's based on a race, and when these statues, well, it's not based on race, it's based on the murdering of race. And when it serves for these statues to be coming down around the country, well, how do I put it? It's important to recognize the history, to remember it, but it's also important not to represent that history through mascots, through media such as this. See, this could be good in a museum for people in the future to learn these are mistakes that were made in the past, and also not to forget what had happened. But it's not good to live up to that in the form of something sensationalized through a mascot.
I could make a horrible joke here. Obviously, there's nothing funny about what you're talking about, but if they did put the Hey Reb mascot in a museum, it would remind people of the horrible mistakes that the athletic director has made over the course of the last 10 to 15 years. I'm sorry, that was a horrible joke. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Ryan Boone and Giovanni Cicito. They are from the Native American Student Association. Okay, so Ryan, I want to take a little bit of issue to what you just said. When I talk about violence in movies, there have been some murders that have happened, and the claim of why those murders happened is because of directly watching a movie that was violent. So I disagree with you. I think that there have been people that have died and have claimed because I watched this certain movie, or because of violence on TV, or this mass shooting might have happened,
or video games.
Because of video games. So I think that is something that people talk about all the time. I am no way, shape, or form diminishing what happened to your people, as I wouldn't with the same thing with slavery or Nazi Germany. They are horrible atrocities that have taken place in society, and it's terrible. I would never diminish that. The only point that I'm trying to make, and now I'll go back to Giovanni, is that the society that you want to live in? The society of, if we're offended by something, that's it. Doesn't matter if everybody else is not offended by it. We're going to do what you tell us to do. What would you say to that, Giovanni?
It's a term called cancel culture.
Okay, so here's the deal. Like you said, is this a society you want to live in? I think that what we need to do is actually know what's wrong, because, in our history as a people, colonization, enslavement, the taking of our land, and also the history of enslavement of people of African descent, is not about things that are offended. It's because, it's been 500 plus years of us living this way. And I think this is something different than just being offended. It's kind of symbols that represents the dark history. And having these things publicly, how do I say it, celebrated in a way, it's not really the right way to do it. So to kind of answer your question, yes, this is a society you want to live in, where we do correct not really correct the wrongs, but take our history in the right direction and try to improve from the things that happened in the past. And I think it's more complicated than just things that people get offended over, because this is not like our favorite, somebody's favorite ice cream flavor. This is something that happened historically. We want to take it to the right direction.
So let's take this a little bit further. You've got the Dallas Cowboys and the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys are probably the most valuable team in the NFL, and obviously Cowboys and Indians have a very historical relationship, and it hasn't been on the positive side for the Indians. Do you think that the name the Dallas Cowboys should be changed as well?
I'm not too familiar with that, so I really wouldn't speak on that. But right now, the issue would be the Hey Reb statue and not a football team that we're not really too familiar with.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on here. I'm going to be very clear on this one. I am for the BLM movement. I am for equal opportunity for everybody in this country, but I'm not a fan of affirmative action. I'm pretty. It doesn't mean I'm a racist. I want people to be treated as equals, and I'm for the BLM movement. I am not for Indian casinos. And the reason why I am not for Indian casinos is for this, okay? If I went to Germany, and I'm Jewish, if I went to Germany, would they allow me to open up a casino? No, the answer is no. And I don't blame anybody right now for what in Germany, for what took place in Nazi Germany many years ago. So why is it, explain that to me, why is it that these reservations are allowed to have their own casinos and make boatloads of money when I had absolutely nothing to do with what happened to Native Americans and the atrocities of years ago? Can you guys speak to that, please?
Well, you do know we're on native land, right? So all this land is stolen, and for me, I believe any native tribe, they are well within their rights to do as they wish. This is their land. On the reservations, if they choose to build a casino and that becomes a new form of profit for them, it'll only support the community further there. And tribes, it's not the same all over the country, but more often than not, it's basically a third world country and a first world country. And so you have to understand there's a sort of urgency to build up that economy and put it back into the community so that the community can be built upward.
Understood, but we're all in this country together, and I agree with you. I agree that I'm sure there's a lot of urgency to build up that community, but there are urgencies to build up a lot of communities in the United States of America. So why does it apply differently for those people that live in this country? That's the part that confuses me.
Would I be able to add on to that?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Well, the thing is, Native people, in the territory of the United States, because we got to remember Native people are all over the Americas, but in the U.S., Native people here have nowhere else to go. Like, we were the first people here. So we have every single right to try to better our communities. And even if there was some sort of law or jurisdiction against us, looking at the history, resistance is something everybody has a right to. So why not better our communities? We were the first ones here. We have nowhere else to go. So it's not really wrong for us. If anything, I feel like it shouldn't be looked down upon in our communities to have casinos and stuff to better our communities because we have nowhere else to go. And at the end of the day, this is all Indian land.
So I got a question for Ryan. How did you get permission, or did you get permission to actually take down Hey Reb? How heavy was Hey Reb, and how many people did it take to actually take down the statue?
So we learned of Hey Reb's removal at the same time as everyone else did when it occurred. So our fight for it has occurred over the past year more strongly, and it's involved community members, faculty, and staff, members from within the Native American Student Association, as well as other organizations on UNLV. So it hasn't just been solely NASA's effort, it has been the effort of other people as well.
Yeah, how do you feel about that, guys? I mean, because I know I've been following this story. I was talking to you, Ryan, last fall in 2019, and I said, because you guys were pushing for the removal of Hey Reb back in August or something, or September, and maybe before then too. And all of your efforts fell on deaf ears, apparently. And then all of a sudden, because of the George Floyd killing and the Black Lives Matter movement, they decide to remove the bronze statue. Does it matter to you that they removed it because of that? Or are you just glad it's gone, or what's the deal? I
would be able to speak on myself. It it's unfortunate that we've been trying to pursue this for the longest time, and we've kind of been brushed aside. But at the end of the day, the statue is gone. And speaking for myself, I think that's a good thing.
All right, so why is it that the school hasn't come forward and said they're just getting rid of not just the statue, but they're actually getting rid of the mascot and the name and all that? Why do you think they haven't come forward and done that? And do you think eventually that will happen?
Well, they
I'm not really.
already
Oh, sorry, you can
have.
go, Ryan.
The school already has done so. It's my understanding that the interim president is on a listening tour right now to listen to various groups of people on the future of the mascot.
So you're telling me that it is confirmed that they're going to change the name, the Rebels will not exist, and you're telling me that not only the mascot will not exist. This is a big deal, guys. And I know, listen, I'm hearing your side, and that's why we wanted to have you on. We can agree on some things, we can disagree on other things. But you're saying that they will, by next year or in the next few months, UNLV will no longer be called the UNLV Runnin' Rebels. They're going to be called something else?
I'm not sure if that's what's going to happen or not. All I know is that the current president has already had discussions with, and according to her email, it says over the past few months, he's had discussions with multiple individuals and stakeholder groups from campus and the community on how best the university can move forward, given recent events throughout our nation. That includes the future of our mascot. The frequency of those conversations has increased in recent weeks, and I will have more to share with the campus once the listening tour is complete.
Okay. So, Giovanni, do you agree with that? You think that they should no longer be called the Runnin' Rebels, that they have to change the name? Taking the statue down and even getting rid of the mascot isn't enough. You also want UNLV to change the name from Runnin' Rebels to something else.
Absolutely, because like I said earlier, there's some sort of reflection with the North and the South during the Confederacy, and that's why we were called the UNLV Rebels, because our relationship with UNR in the past. So, yeah, absolutely, I agree with that.
So what is it in the term rebel that you have a problem with?
I believe we shouldn't be associated with the whole Confederacy issues of the South, and, that's just my take on it. I don't think we should be associated with that, and that's the reason why.
So what is the definition of a rebel?
Well, obviously, the rebel is somebody who goes against what's the norm. But regardless of what the definition is, the association with the Confederacy, I don't think as a university we should be associated with that.
Okay, listen. I get your explanation on the mascot and the statue, but again, you said it yourself. The definition of a rebel is something that is against the norm. That doesn't mean that if you do something against the norm, you're a racist. It doesn't mean if you do, I'm sure you would agree, it doesn't mean doing something against the norm means that you're okay with killing innocent Native Americans or anybody for that matter.
I agree with that, but the thing is, there's a difference between knowing the definition of the word, but we already have a history of, especially with the wolf mascot we had in the past. So it's not like this is just some random word or some random term given to UNLV. It's derived from the past that we had with the Confederacy. So I don't believe we should be associated with that. Whatever the meaning is, it does have that history. So it's not just some random word that pops into our university. It just has a history with it.
So what would you say to somebody that would tell you, okay, you got the statue taken down, maybe the mascot will forever be changed, but Giovanni, you guys are taking it way too far now. You want to change the name of the Runnin' Rebels to something else? You guys are going a little far with this one. This is a stretch. What would you say to somebody like that?
Regardless, people are going to be uncomfortable, especially if they don't really relate to what other people see as, offensive to these issues. People are going to be uncomfortable, even offended that, these changes are happening. But the fact of the matter is, regardless, people are still going to look for a reason that we shouldn't do these things. And people can always agree to disagree, but we can't just stay quiet on these issues.
All right. Well, listen, there's nothing. I would agree that you never have to stay quiet. That's why you have the right to speak your mind and to say how you feel, and I would never take that away from you.
Right,
and by the way, just for the record,
staying quiet and removing a statue that represents a student body of 15,000 plus are two totally different things, though.
Well, I understand that, but there's a reason why we had both of them come on, both Ryan and Giovanni. We appreciate you coming on our show and stating your case. And you sound like two smart guys, and we wish you the best of luck, and good luck to you in your graduation and your future endeavors, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot,
All right.
guys.
There you go. That's Ryan Boone and Giovanni Cicito from the Native American Student Association. To be clear, I'm showing them as much respect as I can, but I think it is utterly and complete buffoonery and ridiculous the fact that they want to change the name of the Rebel, the Rebel name. It's not UNLV Rebels anymore. I think that's insane.
Well, they've been fighting for it, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
And apparently, whatever their argument was, and you're right, they're free to say what they want. Apparently, the administration said, you know what, we're going to keep the statue there. What happened in the end was that BLM happened, and then the
Can I comment on that?
administration removed it.
National attention has opened the door because of so many people across the country that have just given in to every single Black Lives Matter demand. It has opened the door for anyone who is offended to go out of their way to act on whatever they're offended by. And I can tell you this, every single person on the face of the earth is offended by something. And if this continues, our country and the world in general will look like an entirely different place for the wrong reasons very, very soon.
Just want to make my point here. 10 seconds. I will say this. The people at UNLV who made these decisions are a bunch of cowards. Why are they a bunch of cowards? Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen. If they wanted to take this statue down a year ago, they could have taken it down a year ago, but they kissed ass because of what's going on with the BLM movement.
with no
Zero.
dialogue, no meetings.
It's fear.
Yeah, these people at UNLV that make these decisions are a disgrace and they are embarrassing. And if we had any of those people on our show, I would say that to them. It is ridiculous. If you whether you think they made the right decision or not is not even the issue right now. What I'm talking about is the fact that they made this decision because of what's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement, which has absolutely nothing to do with this statue or, in my personal opinion, the Native American Student Association. It is absurd. It's ridiculous, and it's embarrassing. There should have been dialogue on this. You should have had people that were against it and for it. You should have sat people in a room. You should have had students that were against it. It's not just the Native American Student Association that you should have been listening to. You should have listened to the other students that disagree with it. Have a dialogue, and maybe you could have come to some other compromise. I am going to say this right now, and then we got to take a break. If they change the name of the UNLV Runnin' Rebels to something else, I am going to go on full blast. I am telling you, I am going to go on full blast every day. It's going to be a joke, and it is going to be disgusting.
Well,
and they better not do that.
Based on what one of those callers said, it sounds like it's in the works.